Hey y'all, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you may be seeing this. I want to talk a little bit today about those of us who are used by God, and specifically those who have the gift of prophecy, and sometimes what it can look like when you are aware of something that a person is something. Let's see, aware of something about another person that they are not aware of about themselves, and or they believe that you have no way of knowing. They know that they took their time and covered their tracks. They know that they went out of their way to be careful of who they shared certain information with or certain opinions with. Amen. And a lot of cases, you can be accused of assuming. You can be accused of a lot of things. You can be ostracized. You can be, you can become an outcast because of this. It puts you in quite a predicament, and it is because the world loves its own. Amen. Um, that's simply put, the world loves its own. When you are used by God and God calls you to speak truth, a lot of people claim to love the truth until the truth is being spoken and or the truth is about them. Amen. Or the truth exposes them. Amen. So, and I wrote a couple of examples down, but I don't think that, these examples are necessarily necessary. I have David and his prophet Nathan, or his oracle, when he revealed to him the way that God felt about what he had done with Bathsheba and Uriah. I think the pronunciation of the husband's name is debatable in essence for those who do not know. While, the Israelites were away at war, David was, home, and he saw Uriah's wife, Bathsheba, bathing. He thought that she was beautiful to look at. He sent for her. He slept with her. Um, and then I believe he sent for Uriah to have him because the woman became pregnant. So he sent for Uriah so that Uriah would go to his home and to his wife. Well, Uriah happened to be extremely loyal, and he slept in like the outer courts, like I think in our time we would call it like a foyer, the way that I picture these when I'm reading. I also see it in King Xerxes and in other stories where they have like an outer court where you're not quite inside the house. Amen. And so instead of going home, Uriah slept there due to his loyalty to, what I'm saying, the king and the Israelites who were at war. He said, no, I'm not going to go home and rest and sleep and drink, what I'm saying, sleep with my wife and do all of these things while my people are at war. And so he slept at David's abode. And, it's quite an interesting story that she was actually Solomon's mom, but the first child, the child that she became pregnant with, had to pass away as punishment. I'm getting off subject, but, I love me some King David. From the time he was a kid to the time that he passed away, I will always have something to say and use King David as an example. Unfortunately, this is one of those examples. Well, fortunately, the Lord knows what He's doing. Fortunately, this is one of those examples of when a person knows something about you that you don't know about yourself. And Nathan used a parable of a man who had everything but took from a man who had very little. And that was exactly what King David had done. But when he was telling this parable, King David became upset. He said the man who did this should die and he should return to the man that he took from fourfold. Amen. And then that's when Nathan told him, you are that man. That is exactly what you have done to Uriah. Amen. We also have the woman at the well. And Jesus told her, that's in John 4, the woman at the well. David and Nathaniel, that particular story is in 2 Samuel chapter 12. Um, and both of these are at the beginning of the chapter. The woman at the well in John chapter 4. Um, Jesus told her to go get her husband. She said, I have no husband. He said, yeah, you're right about that. You don't have a husband. You've had 5 previous husbands, and the man that you have now is not your husband. Amen. So, I believe that this was something because she was first of all taken aback by a Jew speaking to her, a Samaritan woman. But I also feel like she felt like this who she assumed to be a regular man had no way of knowing her personal business. Amen. And many times when you have the gift of prophecy, you will receive downloads, for lack of better words, sometimes just by having a conversation with a person, by hearing about a person in third person. That doesn't mean you always have to call them out. We have to be mindful with who we speak to and what we speak. Amen. And those of us who have the gift of prophecy have ran into quite some errors to learn this the hard way. Um, but that's the way that sticks. Amen. um, hang on. So yeah, people can become very upset with you for understanding and knowing things that they feel like you have no way of knowing. I cover my tracks. The person I was gossiping with was agreeing with me and laughing at the things that I was saying. You don't even live in my city or state. You and I aren't on speaking terms, and whatever the case may be, just know that you are not alone in these moments when you know these things. And sometimes you just have to, most times, more often than not, you just have to stand 10 toes on what you know. Everything in the dark will come to the light. That's not your business. The timing of it is not your business. It has nothing to do with you. You stand 10 toes on what you know through the Lord, whether it's from a dream. Some of us just know. Prophecy works in a lot of different ways, and I don't believe that if you have the gift of prophecy, I think that you experience all of these things. That you just know things, you have dreams, or you just wake up thinking about a specific person, and the Lord will begin to speak to you about that person. Amen. So the moral of the story is stand 10 toes on what you know. There may not be anybody to back it up. There may not be anybody to confirm it for you other than the Lord himself. And this is why it's so important to say, you know what, Lord, is this my own thinking? Is this something in me that is not healed, that is not in alignment with you, that is assuming this? Am I actually assuming, or are you actually telling? I promise you, the Lord will confirm. The Lord will confirm. He understands us. He created us. He knows us through and through. He knows that sometimes you know something that just seems so off the wall, and you wonder why you have this nagging, uncanny feeling that this is what is going on, because it is what's going on. Is people have gone out of their way to cover their tracks. They have been very strategic in their movements. They've been very strategic in the execution of whatever the thing is that you know. They have studied you to see what types of things they may have to say to you to keep you believing what they want you to believe. Amen. So never doubt yourself. Always ask God. Because we are human. So it's not to say, it is a superpower. I'm not going to pretend like I don't feel like the gift of prophecy. It is. We do have superpowers. Those of us who have the gift, we do. But, you want to confirm with God, because we're still in this human vessel. Amen. And we too can be used by the enemy. We too can be tricked by the enemy. Amen. That's why closeness to God is so important. I love y'all. Pray that this blessed you, and, stand 10 toes on what you know, especially once you know that you know that you know, and God confirms that, yeah, you're correct. And then he's going to give you, once you just close communication with God, he's going to give you further instructions, and he'll give you strategy, and whatever the strategy may be for. Amen. I love you all so much. I pray that this message blessed you. Amen.